How's it going? Strife here, and it's been a few weeks, but I'm going to try and finish up the rest of my Fractal videos now that I have some more time. So this is the Harpy Fractal. The Harpy Fractal overall, it can be really quick and easy, or it can be a bit tougher depending on your reflex. So if you are a ranged group, you can just stand back and kind of take them down one at a time. When you do that, you want to constantly strafe back and forth, left and right, so that those lightning bolts which knock you down will go off the platform. As you can see, we have two Guardians and a Mesmer though, so we are just going to full melee and cycle our reflex. And then anytime you're running between like mob to mob or harpy to harpy, you'll see I'll use stability as well, stand your ground. So we're just going to finish off this last one and we'll run up the rest of the way. You don't really need to kill these unless you want to. And just go to this first event or boss, I guess, champions. So in this room there are going to be 4 mobs. I'm going to switch to Hammer for the 100% protect uptime, which I'll talk about later. And then you want Scepter Focus as well. Now, I'm the only Guardian running the Anchor build. The other Guardian is actually a DPS build with Berserker gear. So it's going to be easy for me to pull aggro off of the mobs that I want to pull off. So what's going to happen is we're going to kill the champion rabbit that comes out of here. It dies really quickly, but it'll insta down one person if you don't have like a Aegis up or you don't kill it fast enough. Then from there you're going to focus on the veteran bandit, which just knocks you down with bombs. And then the shaman, and finally this etin that I'm kiting right now. So the reason that this part's easier with one anchor guardian, and pretty much all fractals in general, is because it's easier for you to pull aggro on the person that needs to be the primary target, basically. So here my group's finishing off the bandit while I kite around the etin, and then I actually use my hammer, as you saw earlier, to remove the defiant stack off the etin. This will make it really easy for my group to pull off the shaman with like a focus pull on the mesmer once it's time for them to fight the shaman. As far as the shaman goes, so it only has 2 attacks in melee range. The first attack is fire bolts that it throws, which is negated by our 100% reflect uptime. So you saw there, I saved my root until my group's feedback and like temporal curtain and the other guardian's wall was on cooldown. And then I just rooted the etin and ran over there real quick to put my wall up. The second attack the shaman does is just the lava fields that appear on the ground for maybe 3-4 seconds. Obviously pretty easy to run out of those, just don't stand in them. So overall the shaman's pretty easy to melee down. And as you can see here, the etin sometimes gets bugged for whatever reason. I'm going to try and unbug him here. He'll naturally come out of bug status after a while though. But even if he doesn't, it's really easy to kite this guy around, so not a big deal. So at this point, this is where the anchor build comes in handy again. So you'll see I'm going to stand in front of the mob, just pretty typical tank type behavior where you want the tank in front and then all the DPS to stand behind the mob. So the only thing I'm going to eat is the auto attacks, which are really easy to heal through with altruistic healing. Besides that, when he does his charge up, so you want to put down either a wall of reflection or a feedback. There's 2 types of charge up moves he uses. One of them is a shorter charge up cast time, which is actually reflected by feedback and wall of reflection. Does about 8k damage 3 times to him. The other one is the longer charge up attack, which does that ring of stone type attack. That one can actually be negated by Aegis, and with 2 guardians and retreat you have 4 Aegises. So we can actually just stand here and melee him, use Aegis when he does his long charge up, and then wall of reflection or feedback every time he charges up for the short one, just in case it happens, since you have more than enough reflex. So that is how we do that room. Up here we'll just kill these harpies real quick. Up in this next room we're just going to have to run up this stairwell with what looks like Guitar Hero strings. If you touch these you're going to take about 50% damage, so obviously don't touch them. You can evade through them as well and try to make it to the top. Once we get to the top here, you see there's 3 consoles. You're just going to hit all 3. If you have condition removal, you can hit more than one since it puts binding on you. But that's just going to turn off the stairwell, so if someone gets down like our mesmer, they have an easy run back up to the top. Now in this room, you're going to want to charge either console in the corner of this room with these crystals. It's going to give energy to the fan, which is going to suck out the poison once we start fighting the Golem boss in here. At Fractal 30 with the high DPS group, you actually only need 1 crystal on each side. At higher levels or with lower DPS, obviously you want to put more crystals before you start. Now you want to make sure the Golem aggroes before you hit the fan. If you hit it before the boss's aggro, it's going to bug out the fan and the fan won't work. From there, we're just going to DPS down this Golem. You can see it dies pretty quickly at 30. And then anything that absorbs, like Wall of Reflection, is going to negate his projectiles that he shoots out while he's spinning. Things like Wall of Reflection and Feedback don't work since they reflect, but if you have something that absorbs, then obviously he's pretty much not going to do any damage to you. And at Fractal 30, also in our group, you can see I didn't even need my shield either. At like 48, we'll usually use 2 crystals in both shields. So next up is another Harpy sequence. This one's actually easier because the Harpies are more spread out, so you don't need as many reflects. So you can see here when everyone's in melee range and we only have aggro of 1 Harpy, we don't bother using reflects because the Harpy is not going to knock you down. It's range based, so if you're a certain distance from the Harpy, it'll use its lightning bolt which knocks you down, but if you're close enough, it won't. So here, again, we're not going to use a reflect because the damage itself from 1 Harpy isn't going to kill you. It's more to prevent the knockdowns that we put reflects on. So finish off this one. In the next group of 3 that you can see across from me right now, you want the Mesmer to focus pull them together, and if you actually stand in the middle of the 3 Harpies after they're pulled together, you're close enough so they won't do any of their knockdowns as well. Obviously you can use a reflect here though because there's 3 Harpies instead of 1 to negate some of that damage and to help speed up the reflect damage that you're sending out to the Harpies. Then again here, this is where you'll get aggro from 4 Harpies, the last 4. So you want to use your reflects for this section. We'll just cycle like the walls and the feedbacks. And then you want to use your stand your ground while you're running. What happened there was the warrior actually just reacted to the lightning bolt and used dodge, which is actually a bad habit to do because you're going to get downed and knocked off the platform anyway because there's not enough room to dodge. So you just want to trust your guardians there. I had stability up so the other 4 people didn't get knocked down because they didn't dodge. And then something like Aegis works as well. And also usually on my warrior I'll take balance stance just in case as well. But this will give me a little bit of time to talk about this last boss. If you're in a range group that doesn't have reflects, you're going to need to kite around these golems and dodge through or out of the way of the bolts that the Asura casts on you. It's his agony attack, so it's going to do quite a bit of damage to you. You'll see with a melee reflect group though, this part is very, very easy as long as you are working together to time your different skills to like pull or cast stability and obviously reflects as well. So our rotation is going to be wall, wall, and then shield, and then wall, wall, shield again. So I used my wall first, then I'm just going to tell my guardian once my wall hits about 22 seconds on the cooldown to cast his wall. The second golem, you want to use stability because it will knock you back. The third golem is going to stay at range, so you saw I used my great sword pull there. And then the fourth golem is going to stay at ranged also, so the Mesmer is going to use his his focus pull. From here, when all 4 become active, you're going to throw down Time Warp. You want to try and cast stability right before they come up so you don't get knocked back like that, and then just blow all your reflects because you're not going to need them after this fight. And you can burn down all 4 of them very quickly like that. So hopefully this guide helped you out a bit to show the methods we use to get through the Harpy Fractal, and thanks for watching.